Greetings. Welcome to the Captive Desk. And joining me is Mike from Answers in Atheism, and Scott Duke is joining us also from Answers in Atheism. And I came across a video titled Renowned Professor Debunks Evolution, Unveiling the Truth with Professor Major Coleman. This is part 2 of the review, as part 1 got into Noah's Ark and Major's model of one he built. And that was enough nonsense in that one. So this is going to be part 2. Part 1 is in the description if you want to watch. He built a model of Noah's Ark, and he is a young earth creationist. He apparently is an accomplished lawyer and a professor, a visiting professor. I guess that means he teaches of law, okay? And I didn't find anything about a theology degree or biology degree in his bio, but you never know. And maybe he'll cite experts. You know, not all of us, are scientists, but we can cite experts. So we'll see, okay?
Whose music do I keep hearing in the background? Is that mine?
Who's what?
I don't hear any.
What does Scott hear?
He's playing music.
I don't know. I
don't have anything playing here, so.
I know what happened and my face is red. Sorry. Hello, everybody. That's all right.
No, if there's noise or something, we don't want to annoy everybody. So, yeah. So
I was worried about me because I just woke up. And here Scott is the one whose face is red.
He's breaking out his trumpet there, and he forgot. Hello, Joe and Rochelle and everybody. Nice to see you. And so Mike's all rested, and Scott's got some Wi-Fi today, so we're hoping for the best. And I did look up a little bit about Major Coleman, visiting professor at Campbell University School of Law, who specializes in American politics, public law, political economy, and black politics. He has a JD from the University of Maryland at Baltimore, a PhD from the University of Chicago, and a USD from Emory Law School. Emory, I believe that's Emory, maybe if I'm getting the pronunciation right. He has also written nearly a dozen research publications on a variety of topics, and I did look it up, and yep, he does have papers. So I guess he. Go ahead, Mike.
What are the papers on? Like on science or law?
He seems to specialize in racial problems with black people. Okay. He is a black man, so and good for him. Got no problem with him speaking out about racial problems in the laws or whatever.
So why in the hell would he be talking about evolution?
Because he's.
Can I ask a question about his credentials or whatever, his educational? Yeah. Now, I thought that when you go to law school, you get a doctor of jurisprudence, which is a JD. So what kind of PhD does he have? Do you know? Does it say?
Kent Hovind, PhD?
Yeah, not in this one. It basically, it says and a USD from Emory Law School. So I guess the PhD is in something from that same law school.
So his mom and dad named him Major? Is that what happened here?
That's apparently.
That's a common enough name, Major. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
In the South?
Well, I wouldn't say it's common in the South, but I've heard it enough to know that typical, or not. I won't say typical. It's a rare thing, but occasionally you do hear of a person whose first name, whose Christian name, is Major.
It sure as hell ain't common in the North. If we encountered one of those, we'd send them south.
I ran into, there's been a Major here too. Yeah.
Oh,
But
wow.
it does say, I guess, what he specializes in and what he teaches is wills and trusts at Campbell Law School.
Oh, that has everything to do with creationism.
As well as externships, and an endowment law scholarship fund. So,
Sounds like he does some administrative and management stuff, like externships. I would imagine that students who are kind of farmed out to different law companies or something.
But as far as everything he does in that, I mean, he teaches law, and whatever he does is activism with civil rights and everything. No problem with any of that. The problem gets to when Professor Major Coleman built a model of Noah's Ark to show secular people that his model will hold all the animals in the world on it. And like I said, I covered that in part 1. Check the description. All right.
What scale was that? You probably want to get on with the thing, but with on.
Yeah, it looks to me like he put about 3 toy chests together. So, what about 3-4 feet each, and it's in 3 sections. Probably so he can move it around. But it basically looks like, about the size of 3 toy chests. And then he has a bunch of toys sitting around it for scale, like some semi-trucks and animals and stuff like that.
So it's like going into the playroom for my grandkids and just throwing things together with duct tape and saying, "Hey, Noah's Ark works."
I looked around. I couldn't find anything of the inside of it. So if anybody can find that, leave it in the comments. I'd like to see it. I don't know what he has inside, if it's actually anything or if it's just the external box. So I can't say. But so anyway, he's going to throw out some postulates at us. The postulates of creation and the postulates of evolution. And he's got 4 of each. So we're going to pull this up and take a little listen. I've got it broke up. It's only a few minutes long. And we'll just make a few comments on it, okay?
Okay.
Sounds great.
Sounds fair.
I'm pumped.
When we look at the 4 postulates of creation and we compare them with the 4 postulates of evolution, only the postulates of creation have been observed. Evolution is based on 4 major ideas. None of them have ever been observed.
Okay, so he starts out with a claim that there's 4 postulates of evolution and none have been observed. And we got a bunch of more people joining. Hello, James and Doorknob and God Equals and Look at the Trees. How you doing, my man? Good to see you. Deep State, hello. A lot of folks joining in. Good to see y'all. Thanks for stopping by.
Okay, he also claimed that the postulates of creation have been observed. Who the hell observed them?
Well, he's going to list them for us.
Oh,
so,
but I mean, who observed them? He said they were observed, that they have been observed. Who observed them?
He's got his explanations.
He does. Okay, I'm just waiting. This is going to be good.
This is all laid out. So here we go.
I'm excited.
All right.
Number 1, that life comes from non-life. We have not one single example of life coming from non-life.
Okay. First of all, this is a classic, what do you call it, bait and switch or whatever, right? This
Yep.
is abiogenesis, okay? It is not a postulate of evolution in any way, shape, or form. Mike?
Yeah, there's the way he's stating it, that we would need an example of life coming from not life, right? If you were around and you watch the entire process of abiogenesis, you would fall asleep many times before you saw life come from that life. At some point, you'd be, oh my God, there's life down there. But that would be like maybe 500 million years you'd have to stay awake watching in order to spot it. So the way he's wording it is indicative of the way they think in general, that we're going to see a bunch of chemicals and then we're going to be watching this little pond, and then all of a sudden, oh, something's floating in there. It's a frog, something's hopping around. And God, it's just like they don't really get how the world works. Not just science, but how the natural world works. They don't get it. That's all I can say. It's nuts.
And my little note up that popped on the screen there was that we are made of elements. Plants are made of elements. Everything is made of elements. Elements are not alive. There's no living elements on the periodic table. So when they use this argument that life comes from non-life, it's like, yes,
it is
and
non-life, right?
If we want to touch, we can go use his Bible. Fair enough, because he is a Bible believer. The Bible is man was made from dust, and to dust he will return, right? God breathed into the dust, right? So the dust is what? Elements. And I've got a plane flying overhead, sorry. We've had a lot of military practicing out at the guard and everything around here. So
that's not good, is it?
I think they're just on vacation. You know what I mean? They're getting their time in, because we've got air guard out here. So forgive me, folks, if you hear a little rumble there.
I remember during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the skies were filled with chemtrails. It's amazing.
So first off, a bad start, Major. This is a bad argument that a lot of creationists use. Abiogenesis is another field, and even if we grant that a God made everything, from there, evolution took over. So this is just, it's different fields of science. James Tour and everybody else likes to use this and throw everything out the window, because another field of science is not as well observed as biology is.
On Saturdays, when I was a kid, football games would often go long. So you'd be watching college football and it'd go long, and you really wanted to get started watching like your Saturday evening TV shows. And so what they would do when they were done with the wrap up and comments and stuff, they would go, "We now join our previous scheduling in progress." And that's what the study of evolutionary theory is. It's joining, it's looking at something that's already in progress and theorizing on how it works. And to say, it can't ever get started. Well, it's in progress right now, and most creationists admit to some form of evolution. We just don't see any kind of form of evolution that would stop at what they call the macro level. So,
we're going to hear about that too.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing. You're accounting for something that's been going on for a long, long time. If you want to go back to the beginning and say that a postulate of evolution is that life can come from non-life, that's not really a postulate of evolution, because we're joining the show in progress. Evolution studies are mostly concerned with life as it already exists, and trying to figure out, how these major changes in the biome have taken place over eons. One thing I'd say about abiogenesis, that whole postulate of life doesn't come from non-life, my take on it is that life came from stuff that looked like almost life, that wasn't quite life, that then became life. Because all the lines of demarcation between life and non-life are not that solid. They're squishy, they're porous. And just like we have viruses that we can identify as living things, almost identify as living things, but they're not really considered living things. You can have conceivably pre-life, proto-life, and so the distinctions are just very small there. And
we're gonna touch on that coming up when I mention peptides and proteins.
Okay, there's one other thing here now. Salt has never come from non-salt, right? So if you had a little vat of water with hydrochloric acid in it, a lot of hydrochloric acid, and you dropped in sodium hydroxide crystals, okay, eventually you would end up with a salty solution, or you may even, if you got the concentration right, get salt crystals forming, right? And you could see salt crystals forming maybe under a microscope, but at no point could you see salt coming from non-salt, because you couldn't see the actual first salt molecule that popped up. It would happen, you couldn't observe it. So we could say that is not observational science. There's no way to observe this, no matter how powerful your electron microscope. You could not see salt coming from non-salt. So we have never observed that. So we cannot believe that salt can come from non-salt. Salt had to be created. It had to be a created kind. Right?
Oh.
Maybe all spices are
he's going to hit all.
kind.
He's going to mention kinds, and he's going to hit on all the little talking points here coming up.
Okay.
And what Scott was saying, we're going to mention a little bit about. I was talking to Mike about this when I was making the video up about peptides and proteins, and that's kind of what Scott was saying there, that you can have a peptide and then go to a protein. So we're going to hit on that too. And good to see you, Icarus. Thanks for stopping through. All right, here we go. And so number one, it's abiogenesis. It's not evolution. It's not a postulate of evolution.
Number two, that all the life forms that we have today came from single cell life forms. Many people do not know that while we do have single cell life forms that we call bacteria, we have no two-celled life forms. We don't have three-cell life forms. We don't have four-cell life forms. We don't even have five-cell life forms. That is, we go from single-cell bacteria to complex life forms. So there's no evidence that all life comes from single-cell life forms.
That's probably bullshit. Just plain bullshit.
Well, if you were able to read that, that he says there are no two-celled organisms, and that we've got lots of examples, close examples, things you might know, like yeast. Yeast are basically considered a single-celled organism, yet they can work together and become kind of a multicellular in their lifestyle. You've got protists. You've got the parasite that just scrolled by the screen there. It's in a species, let me try and say it. It's the myoxoin parasite named Henneguia salminicola. Again, it was scrolled on the screen, so you can read it for yourself. Just back up a little bit, okay?
Where did you see that? Oh,
it scrolled on the screen while he was talking. It's a species that infects the muscles of salmonid fish, is considered to have the fewest number of cells among multicellular organisms. It has only 2 cells. And there are some species of algae that are thought to be of a bicellular nature, although they have a thin membrane connecting them, but you have there almost 2 cells breaking apart.
Was that Henneguia salminicola? That one?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
It has only 2 cells. The 2 cells kind of work together, like each end kind of thing, right? And it's an organism. It's very small, but
there's another problem with that.
well, let me hit my couple other notes first, and then we'll do it.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we also have bacteria that have a multicellular phase of their lifestyle, and they fall into three broad categories based on shape and mechanism of formation. A number of pressures may have selected for multicellularity, including biochemical stress, nutrient scarcity, predation, and environmental variability. One theory posits that single-celled organisms evolved multicellularity through a specific series of adaptations. First, cells began adhering to each other, creating cell groups that have a higher survival rate, partly because it's harder for predators to kill a group of cells than a single cell. And then again, I mentioned that one, and we also have a Bicellum brachyria. It is 1 billion years old, with a B, billion years old, and could be the oldest example of complex multicellularity in the evolutionary lineage. And that goes to what the description just was. There was a cell, and it got a bunch of cells sticking to the outside of it. So, go ahead, Mike. What do you think? My final note was that there are plenty of examples of single-celled organisms, multicellular organisms, organisms that can change between the single cell and multicell, and evidence of single-celled organisms that can work together like a multicellular organism. Go ahead.
Yeah. And first of all, out of what we've discovered in single-cell organisms and small, very small organisms, we probably know less than 1/1000% of how many of what's actually out there. We're discovering new ones all the time. So there's a lot that we haven't explored in that microscopic world. So we know very little about it. But okay, now he seems to be implying that the evolutionary progression would be there'd be a 1-cell organism, then there'd be a 2-cell organism, then there'd be a 3. It's like, no. Why do they think this way? Okay, there's an organism that where the cells are all separate, and then there are probably within that same species occasions where a whole bunch of cells, hundreds, maybe thousands of them, gather together, right? And as it goes on, basically, there's never a stage where there's 1 cell, 2 cells, 3 cells, 4 cells. Even though we may find 1 cell, 2 cell, 3 cell, 4 cell organisms out there somewhere, that is not necessarily what has to happen for evolution.
And you also have a problem with tricellularity because usually you have cells divide.
Right.
So you're going to get 2, 4, or 2, 4, 8, right? You're not going to get the odd numbers because unless one perishes, I guess.
Okay, and then from another perspective, you yourself were a single-celled organism. I'm sorry, but you were. You just 1 cell, a zygote, a fertilized zygote, and then you divided. And then there were 2, and then there were 4. There were never 3, and then 8. So we're all single-celled organisms. And he kind of leaves that part out.
And that's not a stretch because, like they said, things like yeast that everybody knows, yeast makes bread rise and makes alcohol and everything, right? And they are single-celled, but they seem to have a communal understanding, and they can work together to survive, and then they can go back about their business as single-celled again. So it's like all they have to do is just stay together and then somehow bond together. You have multicellular. It doesn't seem like it's that far of a stretch to get there.
Yeah.
All right. So sorry, Major. We don't agree with that one. What's next?
The third postulate of evolution is that time and chance drive evolution forward, of course, and time works against evolution. The chance of one simple 100-unit protein coming together by accident this is a very big number. Time and chance make evolution absolutely impossible.
What did he
Go
say the
ahead,
number
Mike.
was? Did he say the number?
Let me back it up here.
Yeah,
'Cause he didn't
that's just the typical bovine excrement that creation
Time and
like to
protein
throw out there.
coming together.
10 to the power of 141.
Yeah, he's wrong about that. I
Hang on.
calculated it.
I think James wants a link. Let me.
Didn't I calculate it for you? I used Google to calculate it, and it would be 20 to the 100th power. And what did I come up with? It was like 10 to the 127 or something like that, or 123.
Yeah,
It wasn't 141, but a big number, right? Nevertheless, yeah. Yeah, okay. So what was the first thing he said? Can you run that again?
Yep.
Okay. Go back to the first thing he said.
Against evolution. Evolution is that time and chance drive evolution forward, of course,
Okay,
and
right there.
time.
Okay. Drive evolution forward.
No.
That's what he's got wrong. There is no thing driving evolution anywhere.
Except for the desire for hanky-panky and food.
Yeah. Anyway.
And
So-
Hi Nerdy and Chris and Spooky. Lots of folks joining. Good to see y'all. Thanks for stopping by.
Right. And the other thing is that you don't start with a protein that you want and then calculate the probability of getting that from separate amino acids. That's not how it works. A bunch of amino acids came together and they created proteins that were functional, and those are the proteins we got. And there's no reason why, if you look at random sequences of proteins or amino acids for a protein, there's no reason why you couldn't come up with the 100 amino acid protein all at once, because you didn't have to do it one at a time as if you had a goal. So there again, he's thinking in this goal-oriented manner that, oh, we need this protein in order to work in the cell. So therefore, we have to randomly get it, starting with one amino acid, and roll the dice, that many times. And no, that's not how it works. And this stuff all plays well with a layman audience, and that's why
it's this rhetorical bullshit, because that's all he's trained in.
Yeah,
How to do convincing rhetoric that that'll convince people at the level of ignorance they're at.
And he's never even tried to think about how it might work. That's what kills me about these people.
Well, he's got it all figured out. Scott, you were asking earlier. There's his arc there, by the way. Okay, see how it's in like 3 pieces, and then that box that's over there by the young man in the maroon looking shirt there. That's one of his automatic feeder setups that he has.
Yeah,
and then you'll see there's a semi and a house and different things, airplane, that for scale.
The fountains of the deep would turn that thing into toothpicks in 3 minutes.
Yeah, well,
what's the heat problem? It would just you wouldn't have toothpicks left. It would all be on fire. It would be charcoal.
It'd be charcoal toothpicks. Yeah.
In part 1, he thinks this wooden box survived the energy release from the fountains of the deep, equivalent to 1 trillion billion atomic bombs.
How?
Where's the T-Rex?
That's his exact number. 1 trillion billion atomic bombs. And even if you use little tiny atomic bombs, okay, little, not the big ones, right, but just little ones, that's a lot of bombs. And this wooden box survived it. So
that's
Gopher Wood.
First
Gopher Wood was some some tough wood, man. So yeah, but that's just, and then what we were saying earlier, and Mike just explained, and as well what I said back to what Scott said earlier. Peptides can form with two amino acids.
Yep.
So you don't need 100 to line up. All you need is 2. And then that can get a little bit bigger, and then that can evolve, whatever word you want to use, to get longer strands, and then we get proteins. So you do not need to start with a 100 unit strand. I'm guessing units is his word for amino acids.
Yeah. And like oxytocin, for instance, has I forget how many. What is it? 8 amino acids, and it's a functional protein, but it's called a peptide because, and that's just the standard. If you have like less than 20 amino acids, we tend to call it a peptide, and that goes way back to when they didn't know the difference between the two. So
my quick notes on it is that let's see. I do not know what a 100 unit protein is. Again, perhaps he means how many amino acids make up a protein. These probabilities are always nonsense. First of all, it leaves out how many tries it had. If it had 10 to the 10,000th power tries, then his numbers mean nothing, right? And chemical bonds do not work the same way as rolling a Dungeons and Dragons 20-sided dice. Chemical bonds are more like 1 and 1 every time in the same conditions. Proteins are made of amino acids, and a peptide is a short string of 2 to 50 amino acids formed by a condensation reaction, joining together through a covalent bond. We know how this happens. Nothing about protein formation is against some odds the renowned professor of law made up, nor do I think he knows what a protein is, nor what it's made of. He just wants to wow the audience with a huge humongous number he made up and smugly smile saying, see, it's impossible. What do you think, Scott? Impossible?
I don't think so.
I say you already explained it well earlier that you think, yeah, something came together, and then that something became to the next step and became replicating life, wherever that line is, right?
Yeah. Something just shy of life came together and became life. There was, I'm sure there was a lot of almost chemicals and almost, systems going on before the first life took hold. And once again, what is life?
Yeah, I think replication would be a big kind of step that that you would say that's kind of life when you can replicate and that's doing that. I would somewhere in that or right after that, so somewhere around replication probably.
And it's almost replication with errors that are necessary. Just if replication were perfect, as they would be in God's creation of Adam and Eve, right, would have been perfect. If replication were perfect, then evolution and diversity could have never happened. So that's part of evolution, is the fact that mistakes are made. Mistakes always have to be made. That's something we leave out a lot of our thinking. We always think this has to be like a perfect thing. But I mean, if you want to calculate probabilities, what am I? I'm a collection of 20 trillion cells right now. And between this morning when I got out of bed and now, I am not the same collection of 20 trillion cells. Okay, a number of cells, probably about 1 million cells have died. Okay. So out of those million cells, how would we calculate the probability of me being this particular 20 trillion cells right now without those million cells? Well, it would be like 1 out of 20 trillion to the millionth power would be the probability of me being the exact organism that I am today, yet, or at this moment. And yet I am, right? I am. So obviously, all of those choices were made, and life works the same way. Choices were made, and there was no direction to it. The choices were made, and you ended up with something that was functional at every step of the way because of natural selection. And so anytime you do that, it's called back of the envelope probability calculations. And the only reason you do them is to convince somebody of a lie. That's the only reason you ever do back of the envelope probability calculations, if you want to bamboozle somebody on the other side of the table. So,
Nerdy's rhyming. 20 trillion cells in my body, 20 trillion cells. If one of my trillion cells should fall.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that would be a long one.
Yep.
Well, let me catch back up to where
against evolution. The chance of one simple 100 unit protein coming together by accident this is a very big number. Time and chance make evolution absolutely impossible.
So there you go. And I just want hang on a second, Mike. For everybody watching too, I just want to mention Mike and Scott here are from Answers in Atheism, and make sure that you're subscribed over at Answers in Atheism. Give them we're dual streaming, so pop over there, give it a like, share the love and everything. And like I say, if you need to subscribe, the link is in the description. And Scott, could you please tell folks what you were mentioning earlier about Erica and Doc Dino for us?
Yeah, now, Icarus was kind enough to put a link out there in the side chat. Both Dr. Dino, not the Kent Hovind Dr. Dino, but the Dr. Dino with a, doctor with a K, Dino with a DEI. They're both going on professional scientific field trips this summer, and they need to raise some money to offset some of the expenses and fees and things that go along with that. And so over on the Gutsick Gibbon channel, you can just type in Gutsick Gibbon at in your YouTube search bar. There's a live all day debunkathon going on. So you're going to get some good content as well. When I last was watching, they had Dapper Dinosaur, they had Gutsick Gibbon, Dr. Dino, a really crack geologist named John. I don't remember the rest of his name, and Base Theory were all on the panel. And I'm sure the panel is going to change up as time goes by. But yeah, go ahead and make a donation for their summer field trip. Gutsick Gibbon will be in Africa doing monkey business, and that's my word, not hers.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Dr. Dino is going to try to find the location of an unprovenanced juvenile dinosaur femur that they have, or humerus that they have, trying to find where it came from so that he can at least document it and put the information out there for anybody who can come in and legally excavate it, because excavating the rest of the dinosaurs is a legal matter as much as it is a scientific matter. But he wants to go find where it is, because they've had this undocumented humerus in the museum that he is associated with for quite a number of years. So to me, it's a very worthy goal. So yeah, just log in, be generous with your super chats, and let's get them financed for their scientific journeys.
Cool.
And I'll get some links in the description when we're done. Again, that's Doc Dino and Grayson are gonna team up and go out there on that trip. And Eric over at Gutsick Gibbon, go help them out if you can. Be greatly appreciated. All right, so back to business. Here we go.
The fourth postulate that evolution is based on is that what we see today minor genetic variation in species is evidence of macroevolution. So because cats are different colors, dogs are different sizes, that means that fish turned into cows. And of course, we know that that's not true because
Okay, he's just full of shit. I don't care. I don't care what his degree is. This guy is just he's just a bullshit lawyer doing bullshit things for his Sunday school class or something. I don't know what it is.
He's saying that micro cannot cause macro, but yet he says genetic variations, right? And that is exactly what causes the changes in evolution. He's describing evolution.
No factor has been found, no stopper has been found that would prevent an accumulation of small changes equaling a new species or a way more advanced species. And using the wonderful logical means of inference, we've got some very fine transitional species that map and show the trajectory of some of these simpler species evolving into more complicated, although it doesn't have to go from simple to complicated, but we definitely have that in evidence. So what he's saying is just bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, am I breaking some sort of family code here? Do I need to watch my language on your channel, Dave?
Oh, family.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
He's getting me heated up.
Parental warning out there. And I see Randy too. Hello, Randy. He describes evolution, that minor genetic variations happen. Yes, it's word salad. And wait, it's going to get better here, okay? Hold on. As Jay Bundy would say, hold on to your rear ends.
Yeah.
And of course, we know that that's not true because Mendel proved that all the genes that exist today, you can shuffle them around, but there are no new genes that created.
When did Mendel prove that?
Okay, you see my note on the screen, right? Gregor Mendel, the 19th century Austrian monk, known as the, quote, father of genetics, did not know what genes were. In fact, the concept of a gene did not exist at the time. This is a lie, sir. Okay, he did not do this.
He did know what peas were, like
he did,
and other vegetables, right?
Yeah, for folks that don't know, Gregor Mendel, the 19th century Austrian monk, known as the father of genetics, did not know what genes were when he conducted his pea plant experiments between 1856 and 1863. In fact, the concept of a gene did not exist at the time. Instead, Mendel called it the heritable substance that determined traits. He called them elementin or factors.
And you got to hand it to him. At no point did he ever cross two pea plants together and come up with an orange tree.
Nope.
So he proved that you could not get an orange tree from a pea plant, right?
And
maybe that's what's got him confused, that they were only peas.
Yeah.
Peas all the way down.
But there be peas in the valley.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more time.
Mendel proved that different sizes, that means that fish turned into cows. And of course, we know that that's not true because Mendel proved that all the genes that exist today, you can shuffle them around, but there are no new genes that were created.
Okay, well, he's just wrong, and he's fibbing, and it's not helping your case. I don't know what to say. He's fibbing. Mendel did not prove this, so
yeah, that's a lie. But and there again, it's just this whole little spiel is based on the lack of understanding of what is actually going on.
I think you got that off of a one of those creationist mine websites.
Yeah, probably.
He didn't look it up, that's for sure, because I I like to tell folks, okay, I'm not a scientist. Okay, I've always loved science. Yeah, I've always loved science. Okay, I loved going to the library as a kid. I loved getting science magazines and National Geographic and all that stuff. Right, great stuff. Okay, but the internet's even better because it doesn't take you long to look something up like, did Gregor Mendel disprove genes, etc.? And it comes right up. No, he didn't even know what genes were. That's the first thing that popped up on my internet search. Okay. So, folks, look it up yourself. That's what I did. Okay. Now, I'm suspect as to what he's saying, but I just take exactly what he says right out of the transcript, right, word for word, put it right back in the Google search and see what it says. Okay. And this is a fib. I mean, it didn't take me but a few seconds. It's lazy. It's extreme laziness too.
You see, if you take any of these statements and you put the word creation in front of it or creationist, you'll end up with Answers in Genesis has an article on it, probably. Mm-hmm. This one is Gregor Mendel, no Darwinian. Gregor Mendel, no Darwinian. Oh my goodness! And I can't.
Mendel's big thing is that you inherit traits, and that sometimes traits will skip a generation. And everybody sees that. You'll have a brother or a sister that has different color hair or eyes or something than everybody else in the family. Everybody else has blue eyes or whatever, right? And then the recessive gene shows up, right? That's nothing to do with what he says. So, and these are things I remembered this in science class in school with the pea, doing the peas experiments and everything. So I don't know what school you went to, but yeah, that was in my science classes.
And then on creation.com, they have genetics, no friend of evolution. A highly qualified biologist tells it like it is. So they're calling Gregor Mendel a highly qualified biologist. Almost, I wonder if they've ever had him on their show. Have they ever asked him to, invited him? I think he's dead. I don't think he's a highly qualified biologist. He's a highly qualified pea producer, is what he is. So anyway.
And gene duplication can happen during chromosome replication. You can make new genes. There's nothing stopping chromosomes from making new genes. I don't know what he's talking about.
But never had any. Okay, I can see where they got this
mutation. Yeah, and in a mutation in a single cell genome can completely change the structure. And what else? I think go ahead. That's most of my notes on. He's just wrong on every point. Go ahead, Mike.
Icarus has a good comment. Mendel proved that no new genes come up in the same way that Pasteur disproved abiogenesis with his closed jars and such. So anyway, again, it's amazing. There are articles that are backing this up. And the reason that they write these articles is, again, to bamboozle those people who do not have the time to study this stuff in depth. Why do they feel okay doing that? I don't know. The only way that they could be okay as Christians doing this is if they, in fact, have not done the thinking themselves and they just start out believing the Bible and they're going to stick with it, right? So they're not really lying as much as they're just so badly informed.
And it goes right back to, like I told the guys before we started, these things are not great arguments, kind of low-hanging fruit. But what do? They set him up right at the beginning with, he's a renowned professor, right?
Yeah.
And then what is he doing? He's throwing out Mendel, which, like, if you're like me, oh yeah, I remember that in science class, so the P stuff, okay? So it might click in your head, oh yeah, I had that in science. And that's all you know, and it makes it sound like he knows what he's talking about when he's just fibbing.
Yeah.
And Cyborg, how you doing? And Randy, good to see everybody. And yeah, and then shame on you, sir. You fibbing.
When I was like 8 years old. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, when I was like 8 years old, we had a greenhouse, and I started growing beans, and I loved them because they grew so quickly. So I would take one generation of beans to the next, and I was selecting them, and I selected the beans with the most beautiful leaves and the largest leaves. And my hope was that I was going to create a super giant bean fruit, right? Instead, what I got is this plant with bean leaves that were the size of watermelons, or, about a yard across, half a yard across anyway. And the tiniest beans I'd ever seen. They were just little tiny things. Just totally backfired on me. I was so disappointed in it. I almost hung up my science boots right there. And
you got
I'm pretty discouraged, right?
You're going to have to help me. What is that? Zerovok in your chat there?
That sounds good.
Zerovok? Trying my best.
Sexy animals.
See, sexy animals. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Let's think about the four major postulates of creation.
Okay, now we did the four postulates of evolution. Now he's going to do creation, all right? Now, just to mention this really quick, okay? Now, anything that I looked up that says anything about the four postulates of evolution, okay, are things like, number one, individuals within species are variable. Number two, this is a Darwinian a postulate presented by Darwin. One, individuals within species are variable. Number two, some of these variations are passed on to offspring. Number three, in every generation, more offspring are produced than can survive. And number four, the survival and reproduction of individuals are not random. The individuals who survive go on to reproduce, etc., etc. The four pillars of evolutionary theory are variation, selection, connectivity, and eco-evolutionary dynamics. The four types of evolution are divergent evolution, convergent evolution, parallel evolution, and coevolution. And the four things that drive evolution are natural selection, mutation, genetic drift, and gene flow.
Yeah.
None of these match up with any of the things that Major just said are the four postulates of evolution. So all in all, first of all, he made them all up and they were really bad. And so we can call a fib on about every one of them, because no matter what you call it, and I typed in, 444, right? Because he's saying there's four. So no matter how you word it, if it's concepts, drivers, types, pillars, propositions, or postulates, nothing comes up that matches what he says. Okay?
So he could be said to have been knocking down a straw man.
Seems to be.
Knocking down a straw man, yeah.
So now we're going to do the second half. I say this isn't very long. The second half now we're going to do his four postulates of creation. And you were asking earlier, Mike, what his evidence is. So he's going to throw that out at us too. And just so you know, before we get started, I looked it up. And what he's going to say does align with what the creationists say. The main ideas in creation science are the belief in creation ex nihilo, Latin out of nothing, the conviction that the earth was created within the last 6,000 to 10,000 years, the belief that humans and other life on earth were created at distinct, fixed, baromenological kinds, and flood geology. And that's going to pretty much match what he's going to say. So
okay, what is that first one again? Ex nihilo, out of nothing.
Yeah, created out of nothing. Yep.
Right. Aren't they always kind of like asking atheists how they could possibly believe that the universe could be created out of nothing? Why is it okay for them?
I bring that word up a lot. Ex nihilo, I think it's nihilo, right? Ex nihilo.
Nihilo. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know how to hit the H or not on that, but correct me, please. Go ahead. But everybody knows what they're talking about, right? It's Latin for out of nothing. Out of nothing. You atheists believe everything came out of nothing. Well, so do you. So moot point, right? Next. Bad argument. Okay. Let me catch up my notes here. All right, so here we go. Number one.
Where there's a design, there must be a designer. We see codes in DNA. Codes are evidence of intelligence because you have to translate from one language to another. We have not a single example of that happening by accident.
Well, my note on the screen was molecules form naturally. DNA is a molecule, maybe a complex molecule, but it's still a molecule. And I had high school science classes, okay? But I do remember one of the first things you had in chemistry, and when I helped my sons when they had it too, I remember opening that book, and one of the first things you learn is molecules. Mike, you're muted. You're muted, Mike.
I was muted. I was out trying to figure out how to pronounce ex nihilo.
Okay.
And therefore I missed what he said. Can you replay it?
How do you say
it? Ex nihilo.
You hit the H. Okay.
Yeah.
Nihilo. All right.
Designer. We see codes in DNA. Codes are evidence of intelligence because you have to translate from one language to another. We have not a single example of that happening by accident.
Oh, no.
Now, of course, he starts out with the watchmaker. You see design, but that has nothing to do with biological organisms and reproduction and sharing genetic information. It just doesn't apply. And that we have not one instance of a molecule forming naturally.
Yeah. So he said that we don't have any example of codes just being created. How did he put that?
I don't know if I think he used code, or I don't know if he threw information in there. We'll do it. Let's see. Here we go.
Creation. Number one, where there's a design, there must be a designer. We see codes in DNA.
Codes in DNA.
Yeah. And what did he say about the codes in DNA?
Codes are evidence of intelligence.
Why? Okay. He goes on to say something about language now.
Because you have to translate from one language to another. We have
no example of that ever happening, translating from one language to another.
I guess
think
not.
Every translator in existence does that every day, right? They translate from one.
Doesn't RNA translate?
It doesn't happen naturally, right? So
right. But doesn't RNA act as a translator now?
Yeah. It's the reason it's a code. Okay, we refer to it as a code, is in the very simplest idea of what a code is. That if you take the letter A and you assign the number 7 to it, and you take the letter B and assign the number 2 to it, then you've created a code. Okay, and that the way DNA and RNA work and proteins is that simple. There's basically a way that the chemistry works, and it depicts a code, so we call it a code. But they want to take that to mean that there has to be an intelligent coder, that somebody has to write code or do something And again, they're relying on an intuitive trick.
Well, we're gonna play Google again here, and first thing that pops up says translation is the RNA protein part of the central dogma. Translation occurs at a ribosome. During translation, a protein is synthesized using the codons in mRNA as a guide. All three types of RNA play a role in translation. Now, again, I'm not a scientist, but I think, looks like driver, they dropped off. I'm all alone. No, it says translator all over RNA. I don't know what he's talking about again. We have evidence of it.
Not a single example of that happening by accident.
So, we're going to give this another fail. And as well as the internet today, I guess. Let's see if we can get guys pop back on. I don't know what's going on. But, oops. All right, so what you got next, Major?
Number 2, that the Earth, the solar system, the universe, and the galaxy are young, measured in thousands of years, not millions or billions of years.
He's a young Earth creationist, and the universe is 13.7 billion years old. I don't know. Obviously, young Earth creationists don't like that, but I don't know. There's nothing to argue there, Major.
Many times people ask me, they say, well, Major, you believe in a young Earth, a 6,000-year Earth. Can you show me that that's true without using the Bible? And I say, absolutely.
There he is.
That was interesting. My entire system went down.
Oh, did you? You had a glitch? You got too many windows open?
I think maybe I've had too many windows open for too many weeks. If I reboot,
oh, you don't have Windows. What do you call them? Is it still called Windows in Mac?
I call them Windows. I don't know. They've done that, but I had too many. Yeah, we call them Windows. So I had too many windows open for too many weeks. Like if you have a Mac, sometimes you can go for a whole year without rebooting. If you have a Windows system, you got to reboot every 3.5 minutes. Is that?
I always reboot right before I do a stream. So everything's set all back in order, right? But
with Mac we get a little sloppy and we go for like weeks and weeks without rebooting.
All right, so we'll replay number 2 here. Okay, this is his young Earth creationist part of it. The Earth and the universe are young, measured in thousands of years.
In thousands of years, not millions or billions of years. Many times people ask me, they say, well, Major, you believe in a young Earth, a 6,000-year Earth. Can you show me that that's true without using the Bible? And I say, absolutely.
Really?
Okay, anybody giving odds on that? Anybody in the chat giving odds? Here's your chance. He's about to lay it out for us.
What's the oldest living thing on the planet? The oldest living thing on the planet. Trees. How old are the oldest trees? 4,500 years.
Now, this is right. This is correct. Okay. I'm pretty sure that says 4,800. I don't think he's even reading his own slide, right?
So he's saying
I don't. Yeah, no matter how I look, I'm saying 4,800.
Yeah, 4,855, 4,850.
Yeah, it doesn't matter in focus, out of focus.
Well, God,
check your own slide there. But yeah, he's close enough that, okay, and this is true, the bristlecone pine's about 5,000 years old.
And that's amazing. Why aren't there trees that are 165 million years old?
Well, we do have one. Hold on.
It's
Takes us back
165
almost
million.
exactly to the year of the flood, okay, in 2500 BC.
Remarkable.
Oh, 80,000, but that's not 165 million. So,
Yeah. Oh, sorry. But
so this proves that the Earth is only 80,000 years old.
it's at least 80,000 years old because this aspen grove has been cloning its and they think that some of these clones could be up to 1 million years old. So, you know, they really don't know on some of them because they're so huge. Some of them are come and gone, right?
Right.
Anyway, but minimal, okay. All I have to do is debunk his 6,000 years, okay? That's all I have to do. Well, here you are, 80,000 years old.
But that doesn't prove it. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like,
Yeah.
why aren't there, okay, if the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, why aren't there 4.5 billion year old aspen groves? Go figure. I mean, oh my God, their logic is just so slam dunk. And you see the picture of his audience lapping it up?
Oh, yeah. And I say, yeah, the Great Basin bristlecone pine, Pinus longavia, is a species of pine tree. It is found in the American West, mostly in Utah, Nevada, and California. One of these trees has been measured to be over 4,850 years old. So, yeah, we'll go with trees. And here's my tree argument right back at you. There is also the pando. It's deemed the largest living organism in the world. The individual trees rings average about 130 years, but the root system is 80,000 years old. So you can go visit the Pando. That's what the area is called. And underground, it's been alive for 80,000 years.
Yeah, and there's a fungus that's considered the largest known. It's a honey mushroom, I guess. Amylaria oystae. Fungus is the largest life form on Earth, and it's probably also very old. But why didn't that pine tree succumb to the curse of Adam and Eve? Why didn't it start dying? Like I don't understand. Why did it?
Yeah. Ken Ham likes to dance around that too. That the world is so terrible because of the curse, and then you'll point out something that's beautiful and wonderful, like a flower or something. Well, there's still some beauty out there, and it's like, so not all of it got affected. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, one pine tree escaped the curse because God liked it or something, or favored it or whatever.
It gave a burnt offering.
Yeah.
That's
and wasn't the flood 4,400 years ago? Or did they vary that a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, according to Major, he says about 1,600 years after creation.
Okay. So that's about 4,400 years.
4,400, yeah.
So how in the hell did this tree survive the flood?
Tough tree.
4,800 years. It was a big, tough tree, I guess.
It's Yahweh proof. Oh, you know what? Maybe this is the mysterious gopher wood.
Yeah, maybe that's what the ark was made out of, right?
We've identified this gopher wood that is, what was that number again? 1 trillion billion atomic bombs proof. So maybe we should test this grove here and see how tough it really is.
Yeah.
Okay, Major. And like I say, all I did was shoot down his argument of trees with trees. He's using a tree. I used a tree back.
Yeah.
So
you did good.
Number 2, I'm saying, look at the sky.
What? Okay.
Is trees still here? Look at the trees in 3, 2, 1. Wait till you hear what he's got here.
We call solar nebulae. A solar nebula is what we see from a supernova when a star explodes. It leaves a gas cloud. Because of our radio telescopes that we have now today, we can look deep into space and we can actually count the number of solar nebulae that are there. And how many are there? A supernova.
Now, I looked it up. Now, I don't know what... I think he's looking... Scott, yeah. Oh, there you are. Okay. It was having trouble connecting. Are you back? Maybe.
Okay. Maybe. So,
but the number I found was they estimate there's 50 billion supernova. Now, the number I think that he's talking about is in our galaxy. Okay. Now, the problem is, first of all, you have to be looking in the right spot at the right time to see one. Secondly, we can't see things well in our own galaxy because of the position we're in and the dust and the gas and everything clouds a lot of stuff. But when we look at other galaxies, okay, we see plenty of supernova going on. Some believe numbers from anywhere from hundreds to thousands to millions or more supernova can be going off every day. All right. Now, what he's looking at is in our Milky Way, we've only identified about 300 or 400. They figure probably more like 1,000 because they haven't looked everywhere. However, that's only what they believe is a fifth of the number that they can see because, again, you can't see them and because they dissipate, so they can't always be detected by the radio emissions that he was talking about. So the numbers are very vague, but over the course of the universe, the estimate is 50 billion.
How many has the JWST identified that we couldn't identify before? I don't know the answer to that.
Finding more and more. And now he's going to finish it off with...
Takes place about once every 26 years. How many solar nebulae do we have? 6,000 years worth.
Okay, again, first of all, that number's been updated. I'm not sure the year on this video, but I looked and it's been about doubled from 26 to 50. So, because again, we're having better technology, better, like Mike just said, new telescopes, etc., that can detect these things. So now they're picking up more of them than they used to. It's still not very many, and the odds of seeing one in your lifetime are rare because usually here on Earth, it only happens about once every 100 years. So if you're not in that 100 years, you're out of luck. But people have seen them in the sky back to, I think, the 1600s or something is one of the older ones. But yeah, I think he's using the numbers from the Milky Way, which are very...
How many did he say were observed?
He says that every 26 years...
Yeah, but how many...
That he didn't say. He just said, hey, there's been exactly as many observed to make 6,000 years.
Okay, the number's up to 1,800 now that we've identified, and they think there's 20,000 just in our galaxy alone. But we've identified 1,800, and that's 47,000 years.
So there you go.
We're already over.
That's why I put this up here, math, because... yeah, the math, I got the same. Yeah, even if you use the lowest numbers, it's more than 6,000 years. And Major, again, may be an accomplished lawyer and law professor, but he didn't punch this up on a calculator, that's for sure, because it's not even close. Even and when you use the bigger numbers like 50 billion, if you multiply 50 billion times whatever number you want to use, it's still 50 billion. All right, so 50 billion years is not helping you. Okay, that's just, that's like that's the beyond the observable universe. That's into the inflation of the universe numbers. That's beyond 13 billion. So that's a big number.
Well, why bother calculating when your audience is just going to, oh yeah.
Well, even if you divide it by 4, let's say 26. Let's use his number. Divide that by 4 out of 100. Let's just funny math. Divide that by 4. You're still billions of years. You're billions of years, sir. Yeah. Okay. Andy, hello, Andy. You sent me an email. Okay, I'll take a look. Thank you.
Known professor.
All right. Well, I think your math is really bad, and the little smug smile he has about, guess what? It's 6,000 years. No, it's not, sir.
Well, 6,000 divided by 26 is 230. 231.
230. Okay, no.
And we've identified 1,800 of them.
I guess Scott's Wi-Fi is acting up again. So,
and I think what we've identified is primarily in our galaxy because they're a little hard to identify. So, but I am not a cosmologist. So anyway.
But yeah, and I'm not either. Mike and I are just we're looking lowball numbers on the internet. Look them up yourself. Take a calculator. Is it more, or even if it's, even if you don't need a calculator, is it more than 6,000 years? Every single example is. So another fail. Let's see what else he's got left here. We're about done.
That's impossible in a universe that is billions and billions of years old.
What?
Again, he's just all happy with himself. That's impossible. It's impossible. Didn't you hear me? It's impossible. Well, I don't know what is impossible, Major. I just don't know. You may be wooing your audience, but anybody that can just take a couple minutes to fact check you with the first thing that pops up on, it doesn't take a lot. Like with the Gregor Mendel and stuff, you're just fibbing. Folks, look it up when you listen to these people, okay?
Yeah, not being a cosmologist, okay, if there is a supernova and it creates a gas cloud and then another galaxy crashes into that galaxy after 1 billion years, I mean, isn't the evidence of that supernova going to be a little bit screwed up? Going to be a little hard to detect? So why is he saying billions of years? There should have been one every 26 years.
Well, and the wording he's using isn't right either, because he's kind of conflating planetary nebulas with supernovas.
Yeah, and we observe one every 26 years. I'm sure they're more often than that, and somewhere in the universe, right? But it's like,
he's conflating the terms and stuff too, because I think he's piecing together what he likes. So if he takes this and puts them together, then he gets what he likes and finds a number he likes.
So if you take 13.4 billion years and you do that divided by 26, oddly enough, you end up with 52,000 supernovas. That there were 52,000 of them. So I don't know. I guess I figured it happens about once every 26 years somewhere. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So somehow though in his math, he's all happy that it worked out to 6,000 years, but I don't see it. If somebody can figure out his math, leave it in the comments. I'd love to know.
Okay.
And we have other evidences such as alpha decay that we do in our program that most people don't understand that also.
What do you want to bet that Major doesn't understand alpha decay either? Okay, he just pointed out
5 million.
The audience doesn't understand what it is, right?
Right.
So why is he even bringing it up? Well,
shows that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
He's saying decay rates prove the Earth is 6,000 years old.
How? Does he bother telling us how?
You have to watch his program.
Okay.
But he's saying the alpha decay. Well, alpha decay is part of the decay rates that they measure to date things, and we can date things with all kind of dating methods that exceed 6,000 years. So obviously they can date things that date the Earth with meteorites and stuff that's not from just Earth to get the Earth at 4.6 billion. But even if you don't like that number, we can destroy your 6,000 years very easily with every dating method of something that is within the range of shorter periods of time. We can get tens of thousands, millions of years. 6,000 years is not proven by any decay rates that I know of, unless it's from a creationist organization.
So in ICR and Answers in Genesis, if you type in that alpha decay, you'll find 2 articles, 1 article in each. Nuclear decay, evidence for a young world. And we could go ahead and read that. So again, he's getting his information from these sites, which are churning out daily. They churn out a daily blog about something, each of them. And yeah.
And if you follow anything Ken Ham does, or his geneticist, so to speak, Nathaniel Jeanson, what they do is they just plug back in the numbers they want. They divide by 6,000 years or 4,400 years or whatever number they want. They plug that number back in and they go, oh, look, it all works out. And it's like, well, of course it did, because that's the number that you plugged in.
Yep.
But no decay rates, no, sir. They all disprove your 6,000 years. We're giving you another fail.
Yep. Does he have more fails to come?
So that's the second postulate.
We got 2 left.
2
Whoops.
left.
And I just hit the wrong button.
Nebulae that are there, and how many? That's impossible in a universe that is built. And we have other evidences, such as alpha decay, that we do in our program that most people don't understand, that also shows that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Okay, we give that a fail.
Okay.
We're getting
So
number
that's
3.
the second postulate, proves that the biblical story of creation is true.
I don't think so.
Life that we see today are the basic kinds of animals and plant.
How many kinds are there?
I don't know.
Okay.
But here's that word creationists like to use. Instead of using correct terminology like species or families or any, they use kinds.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how the cat kind is different than the dog kind. And the most I can come up with is cats are bigger assholes. So.
Well, and yeah, he uses the, cats and dogs. Cats and dogs share a common ancestor. So
Life that were originally created. So we can test that. You can breed dogs, you can breed cats, but you can't breed cats with dogs. So there are limits to how far we can go.
Cadogs. Ooh, I'd like a cadog.
And like I said, cats
Like a big
and dogs.
Labrador.
Yeah, cats and dogs. I'm sorry, go ahead.
A big Labrador that purrs like a kitten. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Like I said, cats and dogs share common ancestors. And the reason that you can't breed a cat and a dog is because they're different species now.
Species.
So again, I think you're so close to explaining evolution. If you just changed a few words, you could be explaining evolution. He's just playing with the words. And genetics proves that cats and dogs, I think all carnivores share a common ancestor, right? So,
Well, Erica did a recent video and she pointed out that if you take the traits and the morphology of a human and a chimp, there are less differences between the human and the chimp than there are between a Labrador and a Chihuahua. So
there you
they
go.
look a lot different, right? Yeah.
Look it up, Major.
Gutsick Gibbon has a really good recent video on all of that. Pretty cool.
And it's more people joining the chats. Good to see everybody out there. Hello, hello. We got, what is it? Illyrian? Some of these creative names are kind of tough on us.
I'd call that Illyrian. I don't know. It sounds like a Game of Thrones thing. So, I'm guessing.
Sorry, I must have missed that one. But yeah, so the limits our argument is using too is something that we hear the creationists use too, that there are limits, and when they're pressed as to what the limits are, they can't give an answer other than something that is unrealistic, like defying the laws of physics, like saying a 50-foot tall human or something like that. And then, yes, biology is restrained by things like physics. You get too big and the structure can't hold you up, you fall over. So
and lastly, that is,
what's the matter, Zach?
all right. Everybody get ready. Yeah, everybody get ready, okay? Everybody get ready. We have an appearance, all right?
lastly, that is, Earth experienced a worldwide flood in approximately 2500 BC, 1656 years after the world was created. The world is filled with limestone. Limestone is sedimentary rock. It precipitates out of water. The entire Earth was filled with water. Every mountain chain in the world, including Everest, has sea life on top of that mountain. The mountains rose out of the water, so we know that there was a worldwide flood.
What?
Okay, first of all, we have limestone, as I had up there on the screen, that dates back billions of years. So right there, that's your limestone argument doesn't work. Besides, limestones usually form in shallow, calm, warm seas, not during a flood with a trillion, billion atomic bombs going off from the fountains bursting open from the deep.
Yeah, and again, I think Gutsick Gibbon did a video about cementation rates in rocks and how long it takes. I'm pretty sure I just saw that recently on her channel.
She had the mud problem. I guess she had to
the mud problem.
Some of her math in it or something, but yeah, she calls it the mud problem.
The mud problem. Yeah, just squeezing out the water takes millions of years. And
And for my comment, there was no global flood. All of geology says the planet hasn't been underwater since land first emerged around 3.5 billion with a B billion years ago, from core samples around the globe that show different environments to where the rock layers can be observed, to every field of science, from biology to botany to geology to physics to archaeology to genetics. Not a single one says there is evidence of a global flood, and nor does it show up in our genetics, nor in the genetics of any other species. So, zero evidence of a global flood, Major. What do you think? You're the expert, Mike.
Oh, I don't have anything more to say about this.
There was no flood, and when Noah's Ark is brought up, I said to even get to Noah's Ark, you have to have a global flood. There was no global flood. Okay, there's just zero evidence of a global flood. Look up what the geologists say. It comes right up. All the geologists, no matter where you look, they all concur that land has not been underwater since it first showed up 3.5 billion years ago.
Yeah.
Fail.
And that flood environment couldn't possibly account for the massive diversity we have in rocks, let alone the diversity that we have in life. So if you go out and look at sedimentary rocks and how diverse they are, if you get a book on sedimentation and geology, and I have some, and you start studying it, there is a massive amount of variation. And some of those things, they just can't be accounted for with a flood model at all. And they just gloss over that. They don't want to look at the specifics. Like, they would have to give me an explanation for every rock out there before I would believe this bullshit about a global flood. About it. How did a global flood produce that? I don't get it.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm looking. Yeah, he sent something about Bigfoot Gigantopithecus. Yeah, I'll check that out. Appreciate it. Okay, so the 4 postulates of evolution. First of all, nothing you said was evolution. And so it was pretty easy. Like Mike said, you set up a straw man and you did a terrible job of trying to do it in the first place. So we're going to give you a fail on all those. Your postulates of creationism are, they are what the postulates of creationism say. And I looked it up, and he is in agreement with the other creationists. However, all of science says you're wrong.
Yeah. And I don't think any of that's in the Bible, is it? The creationism. So, well, the flood part is, right? But do they talk about alpha decay in the Bible? I'm not that familiar with that book.
Yeah, no.
Talk about alpha decay? Okay.
No alpha decay. And again, when they date the universe by taking ages out of the Bible, those lineages in the Bible are not in the Bible to date the earth. Those lineages are to put kings in the bloodlines, okay? And they differ. And I've heard explanations from some that say these things not only, obviously were important for Jesus and the Messiah and everything and stuff, but it was also important back in the day because they had their clan system, the different names, the different groups, all these things. And there's a lot more to it sociologically than to date the earth. That's not why those things are in there. So Ken Ham may say they date the earth. Everybody else says, no, that's not why those lineages are in the Bible. Look it up for yourself. Decide for yourself. I obviously don't think that they date the earth, but I do think they were in there because they were trying to put Jesus in the line to be king. All right, so I think they're all debunked, and he's got one final little thing on here I left on just for fun, and then we'll wrap it up because I know Mike's done here. So, and I appreciate.
There is one thing I want to talk about after this.
You got a couple minutes left? Okay.
Yeah.
And well, before we do that too, we'll repeat what Scott said one more time. Erica Gutsick Gibbon, is having a fundraiser. Go over there, help her out. And Doc Dino and Grayson are also doing a fundraiser to fund their expedition to go look for some fossils. So go help out all those channels, help out their fundraising, go to their channels. They have everything going on over there.
And there are 1,100 people watching Gutsick Gibbon on right now. So
that's awesome. Great. Yeah. Great. So, and I've got folks have dropped the links in the side chat there. So check it out. Help them out. Everybody loves Erica. She does a great job. And Doc Dino has been working on a fossil, and they only had like one bone, and he kind of wants to go see if he can find the rest of the bones. So that would be really neat if he could find. Now, he has to go through all the, legalities and everything, what he can and can't do or whatever, but he's hoping to at least locate it. So that would be great if he does. So help them all out. Great YouTubers. And we've got one little thing for fun here, and then we'll see what Mike's got to say.
Let me pose a question to you, and Mark and Lise, feel free to jump in this. And that is this. Most people who don't believe in God aren't card-carrying members of the Atheist Club. They haven't studied...
Did you get your card? I didn't get a card.
I didn't get a card. No.
They're sending cards?
Wait a minute.
They send me those AARP things that.
Wait, my doctor gave me something this morning. I'll check.
Every time I get an AARP card, I feel another gray hair on my chin, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I didn't get no atheist card. I'm disappointed.
No atheist card. I don't know. Card carrying members of the Atheist Club. Okay.
Yeah.
Molecular biology.
Yes.
Why don't they believe in God? What is the struggle there?
Well,
Neil, I'm going to tell you, that's a very good question. My answer to that is probably because most of them has not actually seen the evidence that supports the Bible.
ooh,
Well, Major, if that was your best attempt,
yeah.
maybe that's why all these card-carrying atheists that haven't had molecular biology still don't believe in your religion, because your arguments were terrible. They were straw men. They were lies that I looked up. Now, it took me a little time to edit this all up, because editing takes time, okay? I spent more time cutting up 6 minutes worth of video than I did fact-checking your stuff, okay? And I'm not saying I was doing lazy fact-checking. I was saying there were so many websites came up that said the same exact thing. It wasn't even worth reading them all, because in the first words, like with Gregor Mendel, if you type him up, he didn't even know about genes. You're making stuff up. The thing about how many supernova, you look it up, and every astronomer, I'm not looking at the off pages. These are all astronomy pages, and they all say pretty much the same numbers. I'm looking up the physics page. I'm looking up, look up how many amino acids it takes to make a peptide. You only need 2. I think Nerdy Rodent made the comment. Nerdy either knows or looked it up. You only need 2. You don't need 100. I think he just liked 100 because he could take 100 times 100 exponentially and get a big, huge number to make his audience go, ooh. But sorry, Major, if you, again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a geologist, okay? I have the internet, and just with a few minutes of searching to what the geologists and the physicists and the geneticists and everybody else say, your arguments are terrible.
Oh, you got to use a calculator too, a little bit. So,
and a calculator might help. And it doesn't matter if you take 4 billion. Actually, it would be, I gave you the benefit of the doubt, and I divided it by 4. Your number, I think, would actually multiply it by 4 if it's only 26 a century. You could go, if you do it that way, you're talking about 200 billion years. I don't know how he's doing his math either.
Yeah.
Great point, Mike. Again, I'm not going to diminish what he's done for civil rights or racial injustice or anything. It seems like he is active in that. That's a good thing. Sir, stay in your lane. Okay?
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. Okay, Mike, you had something else to say?
Well, I showed you that recent discussion I had with a person on Atheist Junior channels about oil.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that we don't have to worry about running out of oil. And now the interesting thing is you have this creationist thinking, and the same people that buy into this creationist thinking also buy into the fact there being no problem with burning as much oil as we possibly can. We just need to burn oil. And we shouldn't listen to the scientists when they tell us, hey, put the brakes on this, right? But anyway, she was, her thinking, I asked her what her sources were when she said that oil is being replenished as fast as we can use it, and we're never going to run out of oil. And I pressed her for about 3-4 posts, and then finally she said, look it up. There are some oil wells that are dry, and new oil seeps into it. So think about that for a second. Now, the idea is that there's enough Amazon forest and fossil animals dying and turning into oil, right, to replace the enormous amount of oil we're pumping out of the earth every year. And she thinks that somehow it gets from the Amazon forest, turns into oil, and seeps into dry oil wells in Texas. What the hell is going on with that thinking? I mean,
that's some amazing oil. That's a heck of a
that
lubricant.
is some amazing oil. Yeah, it's just
that would top out the synthetics with its creep factor.
Right.
Sure.
It's just, you know,
WD-40.
yeah, it's being formed everywhere. And I think I found a few stats on that. 98, what was it? 98,000 pounds per, no, 198,000 pounds per gallon of gasoline of vegetation has to be compressed under enormous pressure for millions of years at 150 degrees in order to get it to turn into oil. And if you don't have that just right, you'll end up with natural gas, or you'll end up with some other thing other than pristine crude oil, right? But no, she believes that's happening on a continual basis, and it's all seeping into wells in Texas. I don't know.
It's not.
It's just
it's a finite resource, and what they like to cite is like things like, you know, they can make oil in the lab in an hour or whatever, and they can make diamonds in the lab in an hour. The problem is, like Mike said, though, you need the millions of years before for everything to do all its processes, or with oil and stuff for all the things to die and accumulate and everything. And then, it might only take an hour.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, the thinking is always bad, and there's a reluctance to think things through to go out on Google and look very carefully at all the facts, right? And of course, we believe that we do that, and we believe that they don't. And that always gives me pause and makes me dig deeper and deeper and deeper in order to possibly find out where my thinking is flawed. And all of the work that I've done over the last 30 some years, I have never come up with any reason to believe in a 6,000-year-old Earth. So I still haven't found that little bit of evidence in molecular biology and genetics and in embryology, in geology. I have not found that evidence yet that's going to make a believer in 6,000 years out of me. And it isn't for lack of trying. I mean, I do dig into it. I do doubt myself, right?
I even tried playing with the numbers, you know, and even when you play with the numbers, I still can't get the numbers they're getting. So again, I have to go back to what I said. They're plugging in 6,000 or 4,400 years, whatever they want. Right. They're dividing the number out, and they're saying, see, it works out to exactly 7 or whatever. And it's like, hey, good for you. I've got a book with, it's called like 99 math tricks or something. Yeah. A lot of those math tricks are pretty amazing. You know, you probably everybody's had somebody that's told them, you know, pick a number, multiply it by this, divide by this, add this or whatever, and then your number is 9 or whatever. And you go, wow, how'd you do that? And it's like, because it works out that way every time. It's it's just a math trick. When you plug in certain ways, there's some amazing math tricks you can do. And that's all they're doing.
Yeah. Just enough to get the audience to buy it without thinking, because the audience already pre-believes that academia is lying to them, that there's some organization, some big leftist organization that's telling them lies and manufacturing lies and controlling everything.
And again, we're not degreed. I'm not a degreed scientist. Mike's degrees is in not what we're talking about.
Other things,
but I'm citing people. I'm citing all the physicists in academia, and you can too. What the major did is not cite anyone. Okay, and he didn't give any numbers like, well, if you have X amount of supernova and you multiply or divide by it. He doesn't do any of that. He just throws it out. And when the audience, if you watch the whole video, the link's in the description, you can see the two young people sitting next to him are nodding. Folks in the audience are nodding. And, you know, it's a friendly audience, and they're all sitting there nodding and agreeing. And sadly, believing what he has to say.
Yep. Okay.
So that was it. Like I said, I wanted to cover part 2 because, again, part 1 I did was his talking about his Noah's Ark. That's in the description too. So if you missed it, go check out part 1. And that fully covers major. He does have a couple other videos. They seem to be similar, so I don't think I'll be revisiting. His arguments seem to be terrible, and I don't think he's watching the same thing over again is going to change that.
And he has no qualifications.
Yeah, and right. Yeah, and I did want to mention, no qualifications, nor did he cite anybody. And what, like Mike points out, if you plug back in what he's saying, it'll take you to probably Answers in Genesis or one of these similar websites, and that's where he's getting it from. He's not getting it from reputable sources, and he certainly didn't look up Mendel. He certainly didn't look up Gregor Mendel. No. Because no, he didn't know about genes. So in these things too, he's making stuff up on top of it. And as Mary Schweitzer is quoted as saying, "Shame on you, creationists, for misrepresenting science."
Yeah.
And with that, I hope you like this. Comment if we got anything right or wrong or whatever. If you figured out the math, drop me a comment. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Make sure you go over to Answers in Atheism. Give Mike a like and subscribe over there if you're not already subscribed. And I think that'll do it for this one. Y'all have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.